Hey, everybody, Penny here. And today at first may seem like a little bit of a touchy subject, but I'm going to smooth it all out for you because you have your entire life ahead of you. No matter where you are, if you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, you still have the rest of your life ahead of you. And there is so much that we can do each and every single day to elevate our lives. And to say that we're going to elevate our lives doesn't mean that we're stuck, that we're struggling, though at moments we might feel that way. But there's always room for us to deepen our connection to ourselves, to deepen our connection to others, to have a greater level of understanding and self acceptance with ourselves. Because at the end of the day, wherever you are in life, it's impossible to completely undo the impact of everything that we've experienced in our life. And not that our experiences necessarily, in some cases, hold us back or make our lives less than. But I'm speaking right now in the context of a spiritual perspective, but we're going to get right into who we are each and every day in just a moment. I promise. Just hang with me here. From a spiritual perspective, there's always room for greater expansion. And that doesn't mean that where we are right now is not good enough. It just means there's more. And I think sometimes that we give wanting more a bad name. And typically, people think about wanting more in terms of money, material things, finances that we may have heard from other people in life. Why can't you just be happy where you are? I believe it was September last year. I had Susie Lula on the podcast. She is a spiritual counselor. She said on the podcast something that got some really interesting comments on social media because I shared the clip on social media. And she touched upon the data collected from people who are near death and dying. And a lot of this information has been collected through hospice nurses as they're preparing to transition. One of the number one regrets that people had when they were facing death was that they did not do what they wanted to do in life. Some of the other ones were that they were more committed to their job than their kids. They realized too late that priorities were out of order, having the career, and all of these things were out of order. But to really go back to this, that people didn't allow themselves to be happy and to be who they wanted to be. And there are a lot of reasons why that can happen. And what I do today in my one-on-one work is I work with people who are wanting to break free of the stories, the perceptions, the beliefs, and yes, sometimes even traumas that are keeping them from being who they want to be. And a part of that process is working through all the emotions that come from stepping from who you are into who you want to be. And that's really what this is about today, becoming who you want to be. Now, recently I did a podcast episode on deciding. I recommend you go back and listen to that episode around deciding. Many times it depends on where you are in your journey. You can be anywhere on the spectrum from just being unhappy and not knowing why to knowing clearly what it is that you want. And you are at the stage of working through the beliefs and perceptions that are either slowing your progress or causing all kinds of emotions to come up and causing you to actually doubt what you want. So you could be anywhere on the spectrum as you're listening to this. When we're moving to this next level of ourselves, we have to have an idea of what we want. When I became an entrepreneur, when I chose to leave the hospital, I knew that what I wanted was my mental and emotional peace. I wanted control over my schedule. And I wanted to help people who not only wanted to be helped, which a lot of my patients did. Don't get me wrong, but I worked in a trauma center, so that wasn't always the case. But being able to do it according to my values and know that I'm doing my best as opposed to having the care that I could provide dictated by a system or a set of protocols that didn't always take the whole person into account. So I knew what I wanted. It wasn't until I walked away that I realized there were a lot of things about becoming an entrepreneur that were going to trigger fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And those are all things I've had to work through. And this really applies to any big identity shift that we make in our lives. And I'll give some examples to other identity shifts in a moment. But one of the biggest ones for me was being comfortable that I was generating my own revenue and I didn't just have to punch a clock and the check landed in the bank. And having that trust in myself to create that. So I've done a lot of self-hypnosis for myself. I've done a lot of mindset work. I stayed in coaching for a while and learned to be self-reflective, to look for those blind spots so that I could be comfortable trusting in my abilities to not only generate revenue, but to trust that I'm going to be able to help people at the level that I would continue to get clients. Because think about it, for 48 years of my life, I had been somebody else. I had been a child who grew up in a home that it was go to college, get a good job, make good money. And then at the age of 15, I got my first job working for someone else. So for 33 years, I drew a check. You don't move past that immediately. You have to begin to build evidence in your mind to do that. And this is why shifting identities can be so uncomfortable. As we dive a little bit more into this, I want to share something with you. Wherever you are in life right now, and wherever it is that you want to be, this is going to be a simple sentence, but it's going to be deep. And it may trigger some of you because you're immediately going to say, that's not true because, or that doesn't work for me because. That is the only thing between you and what you want. The only real thing between you and what you want is an illusion. It's an illusion. Think about a movie that plays on the screen. Everything that we believe about who we are in terms of the world, not the soulful aspect, but who we are in this reality. Everything that we believe about that, all of our perceptions around how other people see us, how accepted we are, whether what we're doing is right, wrong, if it's good enough, if it's not good enough, if it's the right thing. All of these things are an illusion. And this illusion creates the fears. This illusion creates the doubts. This illusion creates the guilt for wanting what you want. You have the ability, and I'm going to use the word power. You have the power to shift all of this. For some of us, it can shift very quickly. For some of us, it takes a little more time. Some things may shift quickly. Some things may shift slowly. And then we're comparing one shift against the other. And then what does that do? It creates questions. It creates doubt. When we look at what we want, the first thing that I like to look at, when we can't get clear on what we want, when we can't get clear, then most likely this idea or notion of what we want our life to look like is so far outside of our comfort zone that we have filters of stories, beliefs, experiences, imprints, things that were given to us that we can't even get a clear picture because it's so far-fetched, our mind can't even wrap our mind around it. So let me share with you an example. I was in a coaching program for a few years. And part of that coaching program, there was a question in some of the deep introspective work that said, if you already had $5 million in your bank account, what would your life look like? What would your life look like? And what would you be doing? Well, it was easy for me. I know what I would be doing. I'd be doing what I'm doing right now. I am living my dharma. I'm living my purpose, helping people see that there is more to life, there is more for them, and that there is a level of authenticity that is far greater than anything we've been told we are capable of by our parents and society, that our life doesn't have to look like that. But when it came to what would my life look like if I already had that $5 million, for the first 2 years, I had no clue. I would sit and I would stare at that question and I would put very vague, general things because I couldn't figure it out. And then finally, one day it hit me. And the reason why I couldn't figure it out is because I didn't believe that it was even in my realm of possibility. It was so far outside my comfort zone. I didn't believe it was in my realm of possibility. There's another reason that we can be unclear or lack clarity around what we really want. And that is when we have lived our lives people pleasing or making choices to gain acceptance or validation so much that we've completely lost touch with who we are. And that's okay. A lot of people do it. I would say probably 25% of my one-on-one clients, when they show up and we start working together, they know they want to be more confident. They know they want a relationship to be better, but they will often say, I don't even know who I am, because they have sacrificed so much of what they want, or they never allowed themselves to entertain what they actually want, because there was a part of the mind that felt compelled to people please, to seek that external validation and acceptance, to fill some need that either was not met or it was perceived to not be met in the past. And this is what I love about hypnosis work in dealing with the subconscious, because we could sit here and talk about people pleasing all day long. We could say, oh, your problem's people pleasing. People pleasing is not a problem. Seeking external validation is not a problem. Seeking acceptance is not a problem. That's a symptom. And when we can target that symptom, we can identify the underlying belief or perception that is driving it. And I can tell you, for many, many people, even people who've had trauma, the seeds of these thoughts and perceptions began before the trauma. And many times, not always, many times they're based in misperception. So when you begin to give yourself permission to be who you want to be, and you decide to go against the norm or what people have come to expect as your normal, it can kick up a bit of dust. It can become uncomfortable. It can even become scary. Now, I told you everything between you and everything you want is an illusion. Fear is an illusion unless you are literally being chased by a lion. Fear is an illusion. Fear is created based on thought and perception. And you might say, but wait a minute, Penny, when I was a kid, this thing happened. Sure. In the moment when you hit the curb and you were going head first over the handlebars of your bike, in that moment, fear was a rational and appropriate response. But as soon as you realized you were okay, fear should have been gone. Fear should have been gone. To go through your life making decisions, choices in your life, saying, yeah, but this thing happened when I was 8 where I went over the handlebars. You're living in the past. That is an illusion. You are living your life based off of a perception that is how many decades old. The same thing goes with, let's say your parents divorced, right? And you're afraid to change into who you want to be because you're afraid your partner might leave you. I'm afraid if I change because when my mom changed, my dad walked away. That's an illusion. You have no fact for that. And you go, oh, yes, but it is fact. My dad, yes, your dad left your mom. That is a fact. But for you to allow that perception to keep you in a state of unhappiness and not moving forward is allowing an illusion. You have created a framework or a model of reality that is built on something that had absolutely nothing to do with you. And that is the illusion. That is the illusion that's keeping you where you are. The same thing goes in business. When someone wants to go from having a multi six-figure business and now you want to have $1 million business or a multi-million dollar business, it requires you become someone different. One of my clients, she's just absolutely amazing. I have watched her go through so many transitions to go from being a solopreneur with some part-time help to having a few employees to now taking a very visionary role in her business. And she has taken herself out of the hands-on day-to-day in this visionary role. And now as she's getting ready to go to another level, it's requiring even more of an identity shift. You hear people talk about new level, new devil. This is part of that, is who are you? How much control are you willing to let go of? Are you willing to deal with the idea that the people around you are not going to understand that you're shifting and changing? Is who you want to be important enough to you that you can understand that their judgments are about what they believe about themselves, and it has nothing to do with you, and you can allow yourself to step into that? Now, this is not to say that I've had clients in the past where their relationships got a little rocky for a little bit because one person is changing and the other person is like, I don't understand what's going on here. But through the process of working with my clients, because they have a shift in perception, they have a greater self-acceptance, they get a higher perspective of where other people in their lives are coming from. And it helps them to have a greater level of acceptance for people in their life. But it can be uncomfortable when your family comes back to you and say, what's going on here? Why are you doing this? My family doesn't understand that I like to be by myself a lot. As I have started this spiritual journey, even more so, I'm not comfortable being around people for very long. And I used to explain myself. I felt like I needed to explain myself. I felt like I needed to justify that I took my own car to family functions. And after an hour, hour and a half, when I felt like I had had enough stimulation in that environment, I had to leave. And I would justify that now. It's like, you know what? Okay, everybody, it's time for me to go. Peace out. Love you all. and I leave. My family has come to understand I'm not comfortable being around people for very long. And it's because I pick up all the energy and I easily get overstimulated, which is probably, now I know, part of that is the way my brain works. Become who you want to be. Become who you want to be. We can do it with compassion. We can do it with all the love in the world. We can do it without being a bull in the china shop, though sometimes it feels like we may reach a point where we want to be a bull in a china shop about it. But the fears, the guilt, the doubt, the second guessing, the not trusting your intuition, all of that comes from past perceptions. It comes from past perceptions, the meaning that we put on past experiences, and we have woven this narrative in our head around what it means to go forward and be ourselves. It can be very uncomfortable. And here's the way I spin this discomfort. Okay. A lot of people say you have to get used to fear. Getting out of your comfort zone is scary. And I used to agree. But I also know the brain and the neuroscience in the brain. When we go into a situation, our brain immediately begins to call on memories, experiences, beliefs that we have, perceptions, and it basically begins to run a tally. Is this safe or isn't it safe? When we're stepping into something new, the amygdala is like, wait, I don't have anything to compare this to. It is going to heighten your awareness. It is going to trigger a little bit of the autonomic nervous system, or the fight or flight, the physical feeling that we get, where what we term as anxious, butterflies, feeling on edge. That is from lack of reference to fall back on, because what you're doing is uncertain. When we can look at that uncertainty and we can be excited, we shift that entire narrative. We shift the entire thing, because fear and excitement have the exact same chemical release in the body in terms of that giddiness, that nervous feeling. They're the same. What makes it scary versus exciting as hell is the story we're telling ourselves. It's the story that we tell, because every thought, every word we speak to ourselves in our own head and out loud, it triggers an emotion, because we're putting conscious meaning on something. The meaning that we put on something can shift the entire emotion. When it is uncertainty, you are living in your playground of possibility, because there's not limitless possibilities in your comfort zone. If you're in your comfort zone, you're doing the same old thing you've always done, and you will not get to where you want to go doing the same old thing you've always done. It requires getting out of that comfort zone. And that is where everything is possible. And your energy, your frequency, your vibration impact that. And excitement is a vibration that's right up there with love and joy. It's going to help you to more easily co-create the life that you want. When you are in that excitement, when you embrace the idea that being outside of your comfort zone means you are in this playground of possibility. And if those fears, questions, doubts come up, you recognize those things are an illusion. They are an illusion created by our mind. People talk about getting out of the matrix. The matrix is our ego. Our ego, and everything that we buy into that goes beyond the pure beingness of our soul and love and compassion, is the matrix. Okay? So if you want to get out of the matrix, have the deepest love affair with yourself that you can. Have the deepest level of acceptance with yourself that you can, and recognize when you're feeling anything other than love, excitement, joy, peace, that it is something that you can move through, and that most of the time it's an illusion, and it is an illusion that is taking you off your path of being who you are meant to be here. I hope you enjoyed this conversation and this episode. And if you are as passionate as I am about helping people to see the potential for more in their life, or maybe you're wanting to dive into the potential for more in your life and you don't know where to start, my July hypnosis certification training is coming up soon. I have started admitting people to the self-study. There is still more than enough time. There's only about 25 hours of self-study to complete before you enter the live training. I've had people come through this training for their own personal development. Some add this to their counseling or therapy practices, and other people go out, add it to their coaching, or do a little side hustle action. If you're impassioned about understanding how the mind works, how to peel back these layers, and to know where your beliefs, habits, and behaviors are coming from so that you can master control of your subconscious mind, which we do have in our power. We can master our thoughts, which allows us to master our emotions. Then I want you to join me. If you want in, you need to act now. I'll see you next week.